Hey everyone, I hope you all had a wonderful fall break and enjoyed having your Monday off. And today we are going to be picking up with the lessons that we have been talking about last week. Now, last week we introduced the concept of broadcast journalism, that journalism that applies to television, radio, social media, the internet, the kind of journalism that often incorporates a lot of video and audio files. Oftentimes it is live broadcast, and we have been talking about how to write for broadcast journalism. So that's exactly what we're going to be continuing doing. Today we're going to be continuing our series on writing for broadcast journalism. So, we've talked about the numbers, we've talked about the style, and how the writing system is similar but not quite the same as AP style. And now we're going to be picking up with what it is like for the actual news anchors, for the people that are sitting at the desk, and that element of production, for the people at the desks and the presentation itself of some broadcast news. Now, as you'll see here, again, this is not my Bitmoji, but this is Miss Raiders. She was gracious enough to share this slideshow that she had created when she was working on a journalism curriculum. But when it comes to beginning a broadcast news segment for a news anchor, and again, an anchor is that person who actually is sitting at the news desk and is talking during the news broadcast. When an anchor introduces the story, the anchor is the one who speaks first, and then oftentimes we will watch what we see here is called a package. Now, a package is that video clip that you watch when you're watching the news that lasts somewhere between 1.5 and 2.5 minutes long. It is a longer video segment, but our news anchor will always introduce it first. And when he does introduce it, the news anchor has to introduce the package in a way that really gets the reader's attention. It's almost like the news anchor is providing his own or her own headline for the story. So it's okay to be dramatic, and it's okay to really tease your viewers and want to keep them engaged, almost like giving a cliffhanger. So you don't have to start with history. You don't have to start with old stuff or with quote boring stuff. It's okay to be exciting and dramatic. And for any of you who have a flair for showmanship, this is your time to shine. This is where being a news anchor has a lot of theatrics involved. Now, you end your introduction with the promise of specific information to be revealed. As you can see here, if we were about to show a sports package, we might say John Smith gives us a look into the upcoming season of the Tiger football team. So this tells our viewers, hey, we're about to talk about football, we're about to talk about the Tigers specifically, and we know that we are going to be looking at the upcoming season, not necessarily talking about preseason or spring practice information, but the actual season, the actual fall football season ahead. There we are. Apologies, my computer was freezing up on me. Now, the anchor tagline is the last sentence that of the story that the anchor says. So we just talked about the introduction. Now we're jumping to the end because, again, packages are pre-recorded material oftentimes. And so the reporters will put together the packages. They will go out and film the packages. And now this is at the end of a package. The reporter will sign off on the package unless the person reporting is also the news anchor. But if you are the news anchor and you're reporting a package that another reporter has done, then this is what the reporter will say. The reporter will say, from WLHS Action News, I'm first name, last name. Or for WTVY News, I'm first name, last name. For WSFA News, I'm first name, last name. Now, if it's your package and you are the anchor, the interview or the package will just end, and then it will immediately cut back to you. So the people will watch the video, they'll watch the package, and then at the end they won't hear a tagline that says that has the journalist saying, from this news station, I'm insert name here. It will just cut back to the anchor, the person sitting at the desk. Now, the anchor will then close the story with the next steps or any kind of final thoughts, kind of like our tales in print journalism. So, for example, if we were doing a package story on a blood drive, then we might end the story with, the blood drive will be Monday from 8 until 1. Or if we were talking about band, we might say the band is gearing up for football season, which begins on September 1st. Again, this is just like our tales at the end of print journalism, where we give the last little bits of information. We tell them what they can expect to end with, and we go from there. Now let's talk about sound bites. Sound bites are these bits of information that are audio. Now, when introducing a soundbite, when introducing audio, the reporter shouldn't just copy what the source says in the introduction. So, where earlier in our introduction we had John Smith gives us a look into the upcoming season of the Tiger football team, you see here that for the introduction, we don't have the anchor saying exactly what John Smith will be saying about the football team. We don't want to say what the soundbite will say, because then there would be no point for the soundbite. But we do want to introduce the quote. We do want to say things like, Dean Jackson says the new tardy policy is working, or students don't agree with the parking situation. And then a soundbite will roll, a soundbite will play that will tell us what the new parking situation is. We also want to include B-roll. Now, B-roll are those images and those videos that play while a person is speaking on a package. So when you're watching the news, right, when people are interviewed and when people are speaking, we don't always see the person speaking. Sometimes we'll see images and video of the subject that's being talked about. That is what we call B-roll. Now, we also don't want to include interview questions in our story. Think back to the last time that you've seen a news story, and you'll see that oftentimes, especially for just standard news, when a person is being interviewed on camera, we don't actually hear the interviewer, the reporter, asking the question. We might hear the anchor introduce a question or two at the beginning of the package, but we don't ever hear the reporter asking questions. And it's because when the reporter is reporting news, we want to put all of our focus and all of our attention on the people being interviewed. Finally, we want to describe and not necessarily just tell what's going on. For example, we could say we will be covering the new school policies. Well, sure, but that doesn't tell us anything about what's going on per se. But we could say the new cell phone policy is in effect, but some are not happy. See, the reason why this is a good introduction is because we know specifically what school policy is being discussed, and we have a little bit of controversy. Some people aren't happy. Well, that's going to make people want to watch. What are the people not happy about regarding the cell phone policy? Is it that you can't have any cell phone use? You can only have some cell phone use? What could be the issue? And then finally, let's talk about B-roll. Again, B-roll are those images and those videos that play while a person is filming. While a person is filming, and they're those images and videos that are being played while a person is speaking in a recording as well. Now, these stories shouldn't be staged. As a reporter, you shouldn't tell people to walk a certain direction or do a certain event. It's your job as the reporter to try to get as natural and real and unscripted action sequences as you can. You also want to limit distractions. You don't want any shaky or blurry shots. And I say this as a person who films these videos on his iPhone or on his iPhone camera. I apologize. But if I were doing this as a professional journalist, I would get a tripod to put my phone on. Now, you want to use natural sound. You want background noise to be heard, but when you go back in the editing process, you want to tone it down so that you don't drown out the person or the people who are speaking. You do want there to be some natural sound, though, just to help fill in the gaps in between speaking, so that there's not periods of dead silence. You also want to use interesting angles and sequences. You want to add some variety to your shots. And this WMT here are things like using wide shots and tight shots, right? You want to be able to zoom out, zoom in, get tight shots, get close-ups, things of that nature. You also want to get fast. You also want to be fast-paced in your reporting and in your B-roll, but you want it to be natural as well. And what I mean by that is, if you as a reporter are filming B-roll, are filming extra footage to edit together, then if some of that footage involves people walking, give us about 2 or 3 full seconds of people walking, and then cut to another image. If you're covering an event at the local park, it's fine to have people walking for 2 or 3 steps, but then cut to another shot of perhaps a person playing with her dog, or a family playing with their kids, things like that, right? It's okay to include the natural world, and it's good to include those elements of the story that you're talking about. So this will wrap up our series on broadcast news writing. I hope that you take this information that we've talked about and that we've discussed and look for ways to apply it in your future journalism writings. We aren't going to be filming per se, at least not anytime soon, but there are some elements that do coexist with print journalism that you might be able to include in your blogs. So I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time.